So in the short term, if Bitcoin does pull back to the $9,000 range and we do get good support and form a bit of a double bottom formation, and we are able to break above our most consistent resistance point right here, that could be setting us up for a move towards the $12,000 level. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Kevin Svenson here. So if you guys have been watching the channel for the past month, we've pretty much gotten everything we've been looking for. We got that blow off top just below 14,000 we were looking for. We got that bounce just above $9,500 we were looking for. We got that dead cat bounce we were looking for. We got the break below the parabolic trajectory we were looking for. We also got that double bottom touch off of $9,100 that we were looking for. And we also got that push up to $12,000 that we were looking for. So right now, Bitcoin is at a pretty interesting place, coming up on the psychological $12,000 number, also coming up on our downward sloping resistance. Right now, I think it would be a good idea to still expect some downside pressure now that we're sitting below the parabolic trajectory. Personally, I am expecting a pullback from this region. I think right here would be a pretty good spot to put in some good market structure to find some good resistance. If we do pull back to our horizontal low here at 9,100, then I would say it's much more likely that we do create a descending triangle pattern and break down towards my downside target of about $7,500, which is also a test of the golden retrace, coming in just below $7,500. My personal target right now is $7,500. If Bitcoin doesn't sell off from here and is actually able to break above the downward sloping resistance and gain support off of the downward sloping resistance line, then I would say it's extremely likely that we're actually forming something that we've seen in the past, where Bitcoin, during these parabolic moves, Bitcoin would see a high, a higher high, trade sideways, and then hit a low, and we would find volume levels that exceeded previous levels, right? The volume levels are key here on these parabolic moves. You get a high, a higher high, a pullback to the golden retrace, and you would find volume levels that exceed previous levels. So right now, if Bitcoin does find support in this area, breaks above the downward sloping resistance, and if we do find ourselves creating higher highs sooner rather than later, I personally think that we would actually be doing something like this, where we would get that higher high formation, and then we would eventually pull back and form a parabolic low, possibly hitting the golden retrace and form a much larger scale parabolic move. So those are really the two most likely scenarios right now. And this point that we're at right now is extremely critical. If Bitcoin is able to gain support above the downward sloping resistance, then I would say we are extremely likely due for something like this that we've seen in the past, where we create a higher formation, trade sideways, have a strong 3-day period, a strong pullback within a 3-day period, a strong bounce back within a 3-day period, and we would need to find volume levels that exceed previous levels off of this low that we see right here. Regardless of whether we do create a higher high formation, or if we do pull back from this region, create a descending triangle and pull back to the $7,500 level, regardless of how we get there, we need to see volume levels exceeding previous levels. And that would be a strong indication that we are forming a larger scale parabolic move, a long-term bull market for Bitcoin. If we do come back to the 7,500 level and create horizontal lows at this level, then I would say we're actually likely due for the end of a market cycle. And this is something I've talked about in my previous videos. Definitely watch my previous videos if you want to get a better idea of what I mean by another bear market. This is also a strong potential right now. And also, definitely keep in mind the traditional markets right now. Bitcoin was released just after the 2008 financial crisis, and Bitcoin has only experienced upside since its release. So, and right now, the traditional markets are still maintaining within the upward sloping trend line, but like we've seen in the past, if the traditional markets do trade through this region, then we're likely due for possibly a multi-year correction. And some sideways action, these lower low formations that we see in the traditional markets all the time before continued upside. And if the traditional markets do go through something like this, then we would be in uncharted territories more or less for Bitcoin. Bitcoin would be experiencing something it's never experienced before, which is a longer term correction. I personally think that Bitcoin would most likely be in a bit of a bear market during this time but we'll have to see how it plays out. Again, if the traditional markets do go through a bear market, some sideways action here, some lower lows that we've seen in the past, then, you know, Bitcoin's entering uncharted territories. And so, you know, it's hard to tell exactly what Bitcoin is going to do during that environment. And also, you know, if people are uncertain about Donald Trump's reelection, then I think that could cause a bit of a bear market in the traditional markets, as people, you know, are uncertain about what the next candidate is going to do. So for the traditional markets, just keep this in mind. If we do trade through this upward sloping trend line, then we are likely due for a correction, and at least some lower low formations for the next year or two. And in that event, Bitcoin, you know, Bitcoin has never seen that type of a market before, and we will be entering uncharted territories for Bitcoin. So it'll be pretty interesting to see how that plays out if we do get this type of correction. But for now, the traditional markets are still remaining above the upward sloping trend line, and Bitcoin is now testing upwards of 12,000, which is what we've been expecting here on this channel. So I just wanted to go over a few things with you guys, go through a few scenarios. If you enjoyed the video, definitely hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all in the next video.